And we are back. Week number 2 of the new and improved All Pro Nation podcast. I'm your host, Chris Smith, joined as always with my buddy Tanner Weber. Tanner, how you doing, man?
What's going on, fam?
Oh,
good morning from rainy Arizona.
Dude, it's raining here too. It's pretty nasty here in Louisiana.
It's actually pretty chilly too for this state. The high's like 50 today. It's cold.
Yeah, it sounds like you're living in northern Louisiana because that's about what we're seeing, 50 degrees and a lot of rain.
Yeah, right on.
And this weekend we'll be getting ready to kick off. It's kind of our carnival season's already started, but all the parades are going to be getting going this weekend. So
for
Mardi Gras.
Mardi Gras, yeah. Mardi Gras.
Mardi Gras season starts on January 6th, but the parades are just now kind of getting kicked off, so that's going to be fun.
Sweet.
But all right, well, so recap. It's great to be back again, everybody. Thank you to all of the listeners, everybody who listened to last week's episode. You just made that the number 1 episode in All Pro Nation history. So I think that means they're glad we're back, Tanner.
Yeah, I'm glad we're back too.
Yeah, me too. It's fun. I miss doing this, and so thank you guys for listening to that. Like we said, going forward, we're going to try to keep the episodes a little bit shorter. That way, you stay more engaged. We've had a lot of people reach out to us via email about writing for us on the website and joining the podcast. So keep those requests coming in. The Godfather is going to be getting in touch with you and getting your account set up. So we're happy that there's all this enthusiasm for All Pro Nation.
Yes, sir.
All right, and speaking of enthusiasm, we had a lot of interaction this past weekend, this past Sunday with our interactive mock draft. Tanner was the man behind that. So Tanner, why don't you go ahead and give us a recap of the interactive mock draft that we did?
So, we had an interactive mock draft on Sunday through Twitter. We will be doing another one a couple weeks after free agency, after teams, settle down a little bit. We'll do another one before the draft. But yeah, if you'd like to participate on that, give us a follow on Twitter at AllProNation, and you can participate. We went through each team, all 32 first-round picks, gave each team 4 options, the best 4 options, and then all you got to do is be the GM and pick which player you think would best fit that selection. So it was a lot of fun. We can kind of run through it here if you want to quickly.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Cardinals have the first pick in the draft this year, and I personally don't think it's close. Nick Bosa, the D-end out of Ohio State, is by far the best player in this year's draft, and he was the number 1 pick, and it wasn't close. So, any thoughts? Any thoughts on that, Chris?
No, I'm with you. I think he's the undisputed.
Number 2 was kind of a little bit of a shocker. I think Quinnen Williams, the D-tackle out of Alabama, is a bit better player, but the fans went with Josh Allen, the edge rusher out of Kentucky for the San Francisco 49ers. Number 3, the New York Jets selected Quinnen Williams. That's going to be interesting to see what the Jets do going forward in free agency. There's rumors that Leonard Williams may actually not be back with the team next year, and they actually cut like three players yesterday. So the Jets are cleaning house. They got a new head coach, probably going to look a whole lot different this year with Adam Gase. Number 4, the Oakland Raiders. Raiders fans, thanks for getting involved with us. SB Nation, Raiders, thank you very much. You guys selected defensive tackle Ed Oliver out of Houston. I know that was disputed quite a bit amongst you guys. A lot of you guys were very okay with it, and a lot of you were very not okay with it. It's tough because Ed Oliver does have an injury history, but I think once he is healthy, he could be one of the best players in this draft easily. Number 5, Chris is probably very familiar with this guy. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers selected cornerback Greedy Williams out of Louisiana State.
Yeah, not where I want to see him go.
Yeah, we got Chris, the Saints fan here, going to a division rival in Tampa Bay. The New York Giants at number 6, shocker here. I guess, I don't know, maybe it's not a shocker to some of you, but quarterback Dwayne Haskins out of Ohio State, replacing Eli Manning. What do we think about that, Chris? Eli Manning, is this his last year as a Giant?
Oh, it should have been year before last. Should have been his last year. He shouldn't have played last year.
Yeah,
Uh,
I agree.
but uh, but when Shermer got the job, he kind of quickly married himself to Eli Manning, so there was no moving on from them. Even though I think looking back, I mean, it's hard to have the offensive rookie of the year
Mhm.
and whatnot and say, man, did we make a mistake with our draft pick last year? But I think in this day and age with offense being so explosive, I still think they would have been better off going with a quarterback over Barkley. I
Yeah.
really do.
hmm
And so
I'm
yeah,
not. Yeah, I'm not really sure how I feel about the pick personally. I know to a lot of people, Dwayne Haskins is the clear-cut number one QB in this class. I don't personally think he is, um,
I like
but I'm
Kyler
not.
Murray better.
Yeah, I agree.
Um,
But I don't necessarily love this pick just because I think this class as an overall hold is terrible at QB. There's going to be a lot of QBs. I could see two or three QBs drafted in the first round that probably shouldn't be, but because of the demand for that position, they will be drafted early. I like next year's class way better. The potential with like Tua,
well,
Tua Tagovailoa,
well, and,
and
and And I mean, we
go ahead.
knew we knew this year was going to be like this. We knew we talked about it last year on the podcast during the draft stuff that this year isn't going to be the strongest draft class for quarterback. So if you are a
Mhm.
team that desperately needs a quarterback, last year was a good year to get one.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree.
and so that's why I was so against the Barkley pick for New York last year because I didn't see Eli Manning making it much longer.
hmm
So
Yeah, the Giants are in a really tough spot too. I don't know if it's like a loyalty thing at this point. It has to be. Even if they cut him this year, I think I read that they save like $13 million in cap space. They do have a lot of dead money, but 13 million frees up. Enough to go out and get yourself like a clear cut number one offensive lineman in free agency if you need to.
right.
So so
Um,
yeah, Dwayne Haskins, Barkley, and Odell Beckham, Evan Ingram. That could be a very explosive
well,
offense
and
next
and
year.
that's what I was going to bring up. All of a sudden, the trade rumors of OBJ are back up on. They kind of disappeared for a while, but as of yesterday, they've kind of resurfaced.
Uh,
Um, I think if they're gonna pick quarterback here, I don't care who it is, whether it's Haskins or whether it's Murray or whether it's Locke. I think you've got to have OBJ for any of those guys to be good.
yeah, I agree.
So
Yeah, it's definitely will help a rookie quarterback's development as well, having a player like OBJ on the
yeah,
team. So, moving on to number 7, back-to-back quarterbacks here. Jacksonville Jaguars, quarterback Kyler Murray out of Oklahoma. What do you think about that? Blake Bortles, he done as a Jaguar as well?
oh yeah, he's done. He's
I
done.
mean, do
They're
you think he'll be on the team though next year?
no,
He probably
no,
obviously won't be the starter.
no. I don't think he'll be on the team. I think they're going to release him.
Did you see like how much dead cap they have if
Yes,
they cut him?
yes, it's
It's
going to be
like
tremendous. It's
it's
they
like
should have
16
never
to 17
extended him
million
last
dollars.
year. Uh,
Uh-huh.
I mean, they were in a tough spot because how do you cut your quarterback who just got you deep into the playoffs?
Uh-huh.
Um, I get it, but they made their bed and they're going to have to live with it. I don't think you can even put him as the backup. I
Uh-huh.
think that I think that if Murray is the pick, you're just going to want a bridge quarterback to come in and be the quote unquote day one starter and let Murray beat him out and him then be the backup.
Right.
So
Yeah, Jaguars are another team. I feel like, man, they got the 7th pick in the draft this year, but it feels like they should have the 27th pick in the draft. It's just a lot of potential there, but the quarterback position just really prevented them from, going farther than they wanted to this year.
yeah,
Not to
agreed.
mention their defense didn't show up either. But going on to number 8 here, we got the Detroit Lions on the clock. They selected defensive lineman Rashawn Gary out of Michigan. He's staying in state. The first offensive lineman off the board at number 9 to the Buffalo Bills, Jonah Williams, the tackle out of Alabama. Josh Allen could definitely use some help. Number 10, another QB, quarterback Drew Lock out of Missouri. I think that's an extreme reach there.
It is.
It seems like a lot of Broncos fans were very okay with that, though, but everybody's got their own opinion on it.
No, that's a reach. And honestly, do we still trust Elway to pick a quarterback?
Oh man, dude. Yeah, that's another like hot topic. We could need to get a Broncos writer on here, or a fan. How much longer are you going to let John Elway make the decisions for this team before enough is enough?
Yeah.
He went out and paid Case Keenum last year. Now they're talking about getting rid of him. And then you go ahead and traded for an aging Joe Flacco.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, we'll see. I think patience is running thin in Denver.
Yeah.
Regarding Elway, but it's going to be super hard to part with one of your legendary franchises, or face of the franchise, I guess I should say.
I would like to read out number 11.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, number 11, the Cincinnati Bengals are taking my absolute favorite college player of all time. There's not a college player to ever play the game that I love more than this guy.
Oh, man.
I'm telling you, I love Devin White, linebacker out of LSU. He's from the Shreveport area. Just an all-around good guy, great player, one of the best linebackers in college football. At a position of need for Cincinnati, so I love this pick.
Yeah, Devin White's a beast. He definitely clear-cut number 1 linebacker in this class. It's a good spot for him too.
Yeah.
Especially since I know the Bengals are on the verge of cutting Vontaze Burfict too, so they definitely need some help at the linebacker position. Number 12, this one breaks my heart. I'm a Gators fan, obviously, so Ja'Kai Polite out of Florida, the edge rusher, going to the Packers at number 12. I'm hoping he's not going to terrorize Kirk Cousins for the next few years, but hopefully the Packers are dumb enough to pass on him. Number 13, another edge rusher, defensive end Clelin Ferrell out of Clemson, going to the Dolphins. That was another really fun, very interactive pick. Thank you, Travis Wingfield, for participating in that and sending that out to Dolphins fans. Can't wait to see what your guys' responses look like in the next draft. Number 14, Atlanta Falcons, cornerback DeAndre Baker, the second corner off the board, going to Georgia, or from Georgia, staying in Georgia in Atlanta. Number 15, Washington Redskins, back-to-back corners here, Byron Murphy, the corner out of Washington. Number 16, Carolina Panthers, getting edge rusher Montez Sweat, Mississippi State. This was a pretty fun, interactive pick here as well. I know Panthers fans ended up going with Montez Sweat here. It was very close between him and the offensive lineman Cody Ford from Oklahoma.
And, I mean, honestly, as someone in the NFC South, don't you kind of think that they need to go more offensive line before they go edge rusher?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Well, look at Cam Newton. His offensive line this year, I think, was probably the worst that's been since he's been in Carolina.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Yeah, it was horrible. He's constantly under duress. Moving on to 17, the first wideout off the board, DK Metcalf, the wideout out of Ole Miss, going to the Browns here. I can't imagine a scenario next year in which the Browns have Baker turning the franchise around, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, David Njoku, Jarvis Landry, and DK Metcalf on offense. Like, that is just a super explosive offense, and they very well could win the AFC North this year. Would not surprise me one bit. Number 18, Minnesota Vikings, my team here, going with offensive lineman Cody Ford out of Oklahoma. I think it's personally kind of unrealistic. I do not believe he's going to get that far, but if he does, absolutely take him off the board. Number 19, Tennessee Titans, first tight end off the board, TJ Hawkinson out of Iowa. There is some dispute that he is arguably the best overall tight end to come out of college here in the past few years. He does everything well. I don't think he has a weakness. He can block. He's athletic, can catch. And Titans definitely get a steal. I don't know about that pick so much, though, just because of Delaney Walker still there and Jonu Smith as well. But those guys had a hard time staying healthy last year. Pittsburgh Steelers. This is a pretty interesting pick. They selected wide receiver Marquise Brown out of Oklahoma. You want to hear a stat about this, Chris? I guess it's not a stat, but the reason why it's interesting.
Because of they're probably not going to have Antonio Brown.
Marquise Brown is the cousin of Antonio Brown.
Oh, did not know that.
Yes, sir. Marquise Brown is the cousin of current but soon to be non-Steeler wide receiver Antonio Brown. So it'd be pretty interesting to see him replace him with his younger cousin. I guess.
Do you think? Do you think the Steelers would actually pick him?
Marquise?
Yeah.
I mean, I think they're definitely in need of a wideout.
Well,
now.
yeah, they're in need of a wide. I mean, do you think they would put any stock into who his family is? Given the relationship between Antonio Brown and the Steelers organization has just completely deteriorated.
Oh yeah, it's gone. It's completely over.
And so,
and the worst part about this is the Steelers have no leverage in this situation.
They have none.
So
they tried to get some back yesterday, coming out and saying they're not going to just give him away if a trade doesn't make sense. They will keep him, but at the end of the day, they got nothing for Le'Veon Bell. So they can't risk getting nothing for Antonio Brown too. They literally have no leverage.
Yeah, it's rough. They're gonna end up probably getting him like a 3rd or 4th round pick at best back for him.
But let's not forget Antonio Brown was a 6th round pick. They got 74 touchdowns out of him, and they'll get a 3rd round pick. I mean, based on the investment that they put into him, not terrible.
Yeah. Oh yeah, considering what they got.
I mean, if every team could say they could turn their 6th round pick into what they got out of Antonio Brown, I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world. Obviously, Antonio Brown is a generational talent, and so it's going to hurt the franchise to lose him. But I think they lose. I think the organization is worse if they try to keep him like they did Le'Veon Bell. Just move on, and there's plenty of wide receivers out there.
Yeah, and this can be a completely separate topic, but I have a lot of friends that are Steelers fans, so they obviously don't want me to say this, and they're going to hate me for saying it, but this is a franchise that's dwindling downward very fast because Big Ben has maybe a few years left. He's probably already past his prime. Le'Veon Bell's gone. Antonio Brown's gone, and it just doesn't look like you have anything to look forward to. And that's what it feels like, especially with the Browns upcoming in that division. It's just scary time, I think, for me personally, to be if I were to be a Steelers fan.
Yeah.
But back to the draft. Number 21, Seattle Seahawks, first safety off the board, Deontay Thompson out of Alabama. Good chance Earl Thomas is not back next year. He is a free agent, so it looks like he will be moving on. Got to replace him, obviously, and I think Deontay Thompson is a good pick for Seattle here. Number 22, the Baltimore Ravens, second wideout off the board, N'Keal Harry out of Arizona State. I love that pick
for the Ravens.
Oh, absolutely a great pick. N'Keal Harry is a great player, and I think he fits well with what they're trying to do there, just because he does a good job of fighting for balls, and I think he'll be a really good weapon for Lamar Jackson in the red zone for somebody that's maybe doesn't have the best accuracy in the world. But anytime Lamar rolls out of the pocket, N'Keal Harry does a good job of working back to the ball too. So it'll give him that security blanket that I think Lamar Jackson needs in his development. 23, Houston Texans taking tackle Jawan Taylor out of Florida. I love that pick as well. The Houston Texans, in my opinion, had the worst offensive line in the league last year, and Deshaun Watson needs to get that taken care of before he dies. 24, Oakland Raiders, their second pick of the first round, select linebacker Devin Bush out of Michigan. I'm not going to say I don't love the pick, but I don't hate it either. They have holes all over their team right now. So I think they should just go best player available with all three of their picks. And I'm not sure Devin Bush is the best player on the board, but he would fill a hole at linebacker. 25, Big Vic. I know you didn't participate in the draft, but just curious to hear your thoughts on this down the road. Their pick was running back Josh Jacobs out of Alabama. replacing Jay Ajayi. I know he is a free agent. Doesn't look like he's going to be back. Number 26, Indianapolis Colts taking defensive tackle Christian Wilkins. That's pretty straightforward. I don't really know what to say about that pick. The Colts need defensive line help, and I think they have a few D tackles that they could probably cut here going forward to save them some money. And Christian Wilkins is a good serviceable player, and he's cheap. The third Raiders pick of the first round, they went with wide receiver A.J. Brown out of Ole Miss. Obviously, Amari Cooper's gone. Jordy Nelson is pretty much the only guy you got right now, so it's important to get that filled. Los Angeles Chargers selected tackle Greg Little out of Ole Miss. I like the Chargers' offensive line, but I think if they did have a weak spot, right tackle is the spot that needs to be fixed. And I think Greg Little could come in and fill that hole and protect Phillip Rivers. Kansas City Chiefs at 29 take middle linebacker Mack Wilson. This is the best middle linebacker in the draft, and the Chiefs definitely have multiple holes, I think, on their defense that need to be filled, and Mack Wilson provides a good, young, vocal leader that they need going forward to replace Derek Johnson. Number 30, another Packers pick that's killing me, tight end Noah Fant out of Iowa. I really like Noah Fant. My best comparison for him would probably be Evan Ingram. He can't block, but he's a dangerous threat in the receiving game, and I think that gives Aaron Rodgers another weapon. It's a nightmare
just to chime in here real quick. So this pick is what would have been the New Orleans Saints pick had they not traded up for Davenport.
Yeah. That's a good question. So if the Saints were on the clock here, Chris,
they would have taken. They probably would have taken Noah Fant too.
Oh, that's right. You guys do need a tight end, don't you?
Yeah, I think Noah Fant would have been the pick should the Saints had still been on the board here.
Mm-hmm.
So I like the pick.
Yeah, what is the Saints' first pick this year? It's like the third round or something.
Third round, yeah.
Ugh, that's brutal. If you're a draft fan and a Saints fan.
They've got one more year with Drew Brees. They're going all in. Expect them to trade up into the first round this year. They're walking away with a first round pick.
Ooh, that's a hot take. Here we go.
Oh yeah. Everybody loves the Chris Smith hot takes. That's one. The Saints have one more year with Drew Brees. They will go all in this year, and they will snag a first round pick.
So when we're getting into the late 20s, early 30s here at the end of the first round here at the end of April, if the Saints trade up, you make sure you tag Chris.
Hello. And they will re-sign Teddy Bridgewater if you want that hot take too.
Ooh. You sure about that?
Positive.
Does Teddy want to be back?
I don't know.
I guess I just personally think he want to go somewhere.
I don't really have Teddy on. I don't have Teddy on speed dial, so I haven't talked to him about it lately.
Okay. Fair enough. I would really like Teddy in Jacksonville personally, but we'll see what happens. Nick Foles is going to be I think the number one priority for most teams in free agency regarding quarterbacks.
Yeah. Number 31 was very shocking to me. What is LA's fascination with defensive linemen?
I don't know, man.
I mean, they freaking love their defensive linemen.
Yeah. Yeah, this is another pick too, I think that
it's a reach.
Like Cody Ford. No, I don't think it's a reach. I think he should go much earlier than that. You're the opposite of me, huh?
Yeah. I'm not a fan.
Edge rusher Brian Burns out of Florida State. I think he should personally go much earlier than that. I'm thinking like late teens, early 20s. But yeah, Los Angeles, so they had a really good D line this year, but who did they have as like edge pass rushers?
Right.
So I think it fills the hole. And then finally, number 32, this has been, I've seen like mock drafts that I've read. It's been pretty popular amongst a lot of experts. Quarterback Daniel Jones out of Duke, replacing.
I really like this pick.
Yeah, Tom Brady down the road. I like that pick too. I think it's a good spot for him, and I do think that he could definitely replace Tom Brady here down the road.
If New England even stays there. Watch for New England to trade out of the spot.
Yeah, New Orleans.
Just saying.
Gonna trade up there and get Noah
There's
Fant.
there's two teams that watch for the Saints to trade up with. One being the New England Patriots at number 32, and one being the Oakland Raiders, one of their 3 picks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm good with that.
So, all right, cool. So that was interactive mock draft. So what we're going to do next week is we're going to keep the mock draft thing alive, and we are going to do. Me and Tanner are going to do our own mock draft, and so we'll kind of compare that with what you guys picked in the interactive mock draft, and we're just going to talk a little bit of draft stuff, and then of course in the coming weeks we'll have free agency starting up. So going to have a lot of good content as it relates to the NFL coming up. All right, so let's switch gears a little bit. So, real quick before we move too much further. So, as we were going through the mock draft, we touched on a few things. Obviously, we touched on the situations going on in New York with Eli Manning and OBJ, and we touched briefly on the Antonio Brown. Is there anything about those 2 situations that we didn't hit that you want to add?
I guess I would like to talk about possible destinations for Antonio Brown.
All right, let's talk about it.
So, I mean, there's a lot of teams out there that, I don't know, what is his cap hit this year?
Oh, let's see. I'll look it up. You just keep talking. And
I think there's a couple destinations out there. He's going to want to go to a team. I guess he doesn't really have much say, honestly, if they trade him. But there's obviously it's going to have to be a team that has lots of cap space and has the ability to win right now.
All right, his cap hit for 2019 will be $22 million, and then in 2020 will be $18 million. In 2021 will be $19 million, and he becomes a free agent in 2022.
His cap hit in 2019 is $22 million for a wideout.
No, in 2019, $22 million. That's correct. So base salary of $12 million, the prorated signing bonus of $3.8 million, a roster bonus of $2.5 million, and coming up to a cap hit of $22.1 million. Just in case you're curious, if the Steelers were to just cut him, which isn't going to happen, but if it were to, his dead money hit would be $21.1 million, $14 million, and $7 million.
Mm-hmm.
So he's a big investment over the next 3 years for somebody. And so
I got 3 teams off the top of my head. This is really tough because the Steelers obviously have the leverage with the part of which team they want to trade him to. But what they get in return for him is completely different. Obviously, I feel like the number 1 go-to spot is obviously Indianapolis. They have $107 million of cap space to use this offseason. So that like doesn't even really put a dent in what they could do this offseason. And it gives Andrew Luck a really good weapon to go along with T.Y. Hilton, Eric Ebron, Jack Doyle. And then, I mean, they could go out and get Le'Veon Bell too. And you look at that, and the Colts could arguably be the AFC favorite going into next year if they add those 2 pieces.
Yeah.
So I really like the Colts as the first spot. Another team is the San Francisco 49ers. They're fifth in total cap space that they have available this year. Obviously, it's not official yet, but it sounds like they're going to part with Pierre Garçon. So that pretty much leaves Marquise Goodwin and a bunch of scrubs at wideout. And I think Antonio Brown would be a good go-to weapon for Jimmy Garoppolo. And the 49ers are going to, they'll be competitive again next year too because they're getting healthy again. I don't think a team in the league suffered from injuries more last year than they did. And then, go ahead.
Oh, no, you go ahead. You finish your list.
The third one is kind of, I don't know if it's a hot take or not, and it pains me to say it, but just because I've read it online, it does make a lot of sense. The Green Bay Packers
That's
as the
who I was
third
about to
spot.
bring up.
Um, they don't have a ton of cap space. They're kind of like in the middle of the pack league wise. But if you're going to, because Randall Cobb's gone, he's a free agent. He ain't going to be back next year.
They're probably gonna unload Jimmy Graham.
They could, yep, they could unload Jimmy Graham. They do have a couple other cap casualties on their team that they could part with in order to kind of free up some space for Antonio Brown if they need it. If they did sign him or were to trade for him, they would still have roughly $12 million to work with to maybe upgrade their defense in free agency. They do need a safety, that's important too. But imagine Aaron Rodgers, Antonio Brown, and Devontae Adams on the same team. That scares me.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are my three hot spots. I can't wait to see where he ends up. But what do you think? Do you have any other teams that I maybe missed that you might like to see?
Well, I
him go to?
love the Colts. I think that's best for him. I think that's best for everybody. I think nobody gets screwed if he goes to the Colts.
So the only thing that I don't like with that trade is with the 49ers and the Packers, that's in a non-conference, so the Steelers don't have to worry about seeing him again.
Right.
But if he's in the AFC, there's a good chance the Steelers could face him again.
Could you imagine Antonio Brown and T.Y. Hilton?
Yeah, it's not fair. And Andrew Luck.
That would just be wrong.
Yeah, and the offensive line that they already have in place there,
Oh,
it's just
God. They could just get a competent running back.
Yeah. Hey, Marlon Mack was pretty good last
Yeah,
year.
he was. I think he'll be good next year too. I like the 49ers too. But what about the Oakland Raiders?
So I can see that too. They have a lot of cap space to work with, and that would definitely
And
be
a
a huge
lot
upgrade.
of draft picks to work with.
Yeah. That makes sense on that end. My only thing is, I guess for Antonio, obviously he's not going to be happy because they're definitely not in win now mode. But he doesn't really have much say, so that's all on what the Steelers want to do.
Yeah, and then I'll throw one more out there that I think would be really fun. But I don't think that they have the cap space or anything really to give the Steelers, but it would just be like a fun scenario, and that would be the Arizona Cardinals.
Mm-hmm.
I think Kingsbury's offense is kind of push the ball down the field. And high flying West Coast offense paired up with Antonio Brown. I think that would be a fun matchup.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's really interesting that you bring that up. Obviously, you guys know I live in Arizona, so the only sports station on down here is ArizonaSports.com. And it seems like every day I turn on the radio station, that's what they're talking about, is how Antonio Brown could be a likely destination to Arizona.
Yeah.
I don't obviously see that happening at all, but for all the reasons you just said, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Right. And then of course too the Packers. I think the Packers would be cool. And I wouldn't turn my nose up to either the Cowboys or the Seahawks either. Just thinking, I don't know how much cap space either one of those teams have.
Yeah, the Seahawks got a lot to work with. Actually, the Cowboys do too.
So
I did look at the Seahawks, but I don't know, for some reason it just didn't ring a bell.
Yeah.
Just because they already have Doug Baldwin and Tyler Lockett, I don't know if they want to waste $22 million of their offseason cap space to bring in another wide receiver when they already have two pretty good ones.
Right. But at the end of the day, there are plenty of teams that will want Antonio Brown. Plenty of teams that will give assets up for him. So I think that's good. I don't think this. That's why I've seen some people say, "Oh, well, if the Steelers don't like what they get, he'll be back in Pittsburgh next year." I don't think there's any chance he's in Pittsburgh next year.
Oh no, not a chance.
Yeah, so that's going to be fun. All right, So before we head out, I want to do something real fun.
Let's do it.
All right.
What you got? What
We
you got?
didn't we didn't talk about this last week. So we are going to go through the coaching carousel of 2019,
Oh man.
18, 19, because this was always a fun topic for us last year and the year before. So and we didn't get to do it this year. So let's do it. Let's go through the head coaching changes.
All right, start it
All
off.
right, we'll start in the AFC with the Browns, the fired Hugh Jackson, and the hired Freddie Kitchens.
So my first thought off of this, and you're probably not gonna like it, and I don't even really like it as well because I hate Greg Williams. He's a douchebag. But why change something? Why not give him a chance? Look at all the success they had after they switched over to him last year. So if there was any sort of chemistry that they had going there, I was just surprised that they decided to flip it. And that's not saying that Freddie Kitchens is a bad hire.
Well, I mean, I mean, Kitchens was there last year.
And working with Baker.
What's that? And
working with Baker.
Yeah, and as offensive coordinator, he's the reason. Look, if you think Greg Williams had anything to do with their offensive success after they fired Hugh Jackson, you're crazy. And I think I don't think that. Here's a hot take. I think Greg Williams is an overrated defensive coordinator, and I don't think that I like the hire personally.
Yeah, no, I don't hate it, but I just
It's not a sexy pick, that's for sure. You're just not.
Oh
like,
yeah, well, it's
Freddie
because Freddie Kitchens,
Yeah,
he has no experience.
Yeah,
He has no experience. Like Greg Williams has had his name up there, even with the Saints, like being in a Super Bowl defensive coordinator, having that experience and having that success in the past. So that's why his name looks sexier. Right. But yeah, like at the same time, it's just I was confused by it just because I know they did interview him. But I just thought with the chemistry that they had going, I thought that they were going to give him a chance. But I could really care less, honestly. I think Freddie Kitchens is a good hire too.
Yeah, I think I like what you said with the Browns. I think that they're one of the better teams watching going into next season, especially with this implosion in Pittsburgh, this transition they have in Baltimore. Look for the Browns to make some noise in that division.
Oh, absolutely. So you got the Bengals are in rebuild mode right now with Marvin Lewis gone. They got a rookie head coach, Zach Taylor, no experience, really young team, looking to clean house. You got the Ravens who are going to be competitive again next year. I really think the division will be between the Ravens and the Browns. And then you got the Steelers who, like we've talked about earlier in the show already, that they're spiraling downward. It's just Big Ben's almost done, and they're arguably their two best players on their team are not going to be in Pittsburgh next year.
Yeah. All right, moving on to the Jets. Somehow the Jets were able to take a coach from inside of their division and Adam Gase, and as they said, farewell to Todd Bowles. I don't know how I feel about this. I was high on Gase. You know that. We talked.
I was too.
Yeah. Over the last couple of years, we've talked about how much I like Gase. I really thought he was going to turn Tannehill's career around. He just didn't do it. The Dolphins are just kind of with Gase there. But Gase was 5-1 against the Jets as the Dolphins head coach, which that's not saying much either because the Dolphins have been a dumpster fire. But I think that had a lot to do with it, and so I'm just curious why the Jets went with Gase and not McCarthy. I think that's my biggest question.
I agree 100%. So I do like this move for a number of reasons. The worst part about it is definitely because I think Mike McCarthy was the best candidate available, other than Josh McDaniels, but he wasn't going to go to a team that's not in win mode right now, And so one is obviously New York had to bring in a head coach that was a QB guru to develop Sam Darnold,
right?
Because you don't want him to, you don't want him to decline. The second one is he's familiar with the division. So he was already with the Dolphins. He's familiar with every single team within that division, and he can kind of walk in there and they broke down that team completely. So if you look at their roster right now with all the free agents that they have and the 3 or 4 cuts that they've already had yesterday or 2 days ago, this team's going to look 100% completely different next year.
Yeah.
So I remember we were talking on one of our podcasts last year. They had like 8 wide receivers on their roster.
Right.
Nobody that was like super sexy, but all players that could make NFL rosters. Those are all gone.
Right.
I think the only one back is Robbie Anderson.
Yeah.
So he's walking in there. He can tear the house down and kind of plug in players the way he wants to, develop Sam Darnold, and he's familiar with the division. So I like the move for that number of reasons. I just feel like Mike McCarthy, like you said, was a better candidate.
Yeah, and that's really all it is. I mean, I like Gase, and if you've followed this podcast long enough, I talk about Gase all the time. I just thought Mike McCarthy was the better choice. All right, moving on. One of my favorite assistants in the league finally got a job in Denver. Vance Joseph was let go, and they hired Vic Fangio. I think this is a great move, especially now that they decided to just go ahead and bring in Flacco. If Flacco can just be okay, they won a Super Bowl with their defense and just an okay quarterback.
Yeah.
And so I think that Elway's like, screw it. Let's just go back to the Peyton Manning Super Bowl year. Let's win this thing with defense. And the pieces are there, and I think they can do it.
Yeah, they can absolutely be competitive next year. And this was my favorite coaching hire of all of them.
Because he got him out of the division.
Yeah, he's not with the Bears anymore.
But he is one of the best defensive minds in the league right now.
Oh, absolutely. Down. Even you don't see it because the Bears had so many injuries last year in 2018 or 2017. I'm sorry, excuse me. They would have been just as good last year, 2017, as they were this year. Had they been healthy. Vic Fangio still made that defense like very competitive, but they just like had so many injuries that they couldn't like keep up. So they were playing second stringers all throughout the year. I think Bradley Chubb and Von Miller are going to be an absolute nightmare next year because I think, like you said, Vic Fangio is just a very strongly defensive minded coach, and I think the Broncos are definitely going to be competitive next year, and that's absolutely the route that they had to go. Considering you have to find a way to slow down Patrick Mahomes within that division to stay competitive.
Right. All right. We kind of touched on this already, but Marvin Lewis stepped down, and Zach Taylor was hired.
Zach Taylor was a QB in the league not too long ago.
Yeah.
What was it, a couple years ago?
What's that?
How long ago was that he was in the league? 5 years ago, maybe?
No,
Not even?
It was a little bit longer than that. It was before. He was the Rams quarterback.
He's 35 years old.
But he was the Rams quarterback before.
You're right. It's been a long time. No, he was
before they drafted.
So he's been an assistant coach for a really long time, but he actually played 1 year in the league, and that was 2007.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That was why am I blanking on that? On Sam Bradford. He was the Rams quarterback right before Sam Bradford. Just kind of weird. I thought they were going to go Eric. How do you say his last name?
Bieniemy.
Yeah, there it is. Bieniemy.
Eric Bieniemy.
From Kansas City. That's who I really thought they were going for, but kind of shocked that they went with Zach Taylor.
I don't know. I don't really know what to add to this.
Dolphins let go of Adam Gase, bring in Brian Flores. I'm just going to say, let's see. I think Brian Flores is great defensive mind, but the Bill Belichick coaching tree hasn't really been all that successful when it comes to head coaches. I think maybe that's starting to turn because now your boy in Houston. Why am I blanking on his name?
My boy in Houston?
Head coach in Houston.
Oh my gosh, yeah. The guy from Penn State. I can't remember his name.
Why am I blanking on his name?
Yeah.
Anyways, he was the defensive coordinator or offensive coordinator in New England. Then of course you have
Bill O'Brien.
Yeah, Bill O'Brien. And then
Yeah.
then of course in Tennessee you have blanking on this name too. Um,
Former Patriot player.
yeah, and then in God, you put me on the spot now. And then
Mike
with
Vrabel.
in Detroit, Matt Patricia. The Bill Belichick coaching tree just hasn't really been. Of course, we know Josh McDaniels. It just hasn't been all that successful. So I'm just kind of curious where Brian Flores is, how he's going to go.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, I don't. Those two, the Bengals and the Dolphins, I really don't have much to say about them. They're not sexy names, and they are relatively young guys. Like you said, it's the we'll see mentality. That's how you gotta approach that.
um, I think the biggest fire of the year was obviously the Packers firing Mike McCarthy and bringing in a very questionable Matt LaFleur. Um, So very, very, very curious how they were not able to pull Josh McDaniels over there. If there was a place he was going to go, that was it. I felt like
Yeah.
so that was curious to me.
Yeah. So you did miss two teams. Are there any others that you wanted to touch on?
In the AFC,
So you got the man, the QB guru, Bruce Arians, is in Tampa Bay.
that's an NFC.
Oh no, I'm talking like two teams that we missed in general. They're both in the NFC.
I know. We're just now going to NFC.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Continue what you were saying there.
Did you want to add anything to the Packers?
No.
Okay. Arizona Cardinals. Steve Wilkes is out. Cliff Kingsbury is in.
Yes,
Uh,
sir.
just kind of, I don't really like the way Kingsbury came in just because, he had committed to USC and then left USC.
Not only that, but now there's the speculation that he had to comment a few months back if he were to have the number one pick in the draft, he would obviously go with Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
So now all I hear on the radio station every day is, are the Cardinals going to trade Josh Rosen and draft Kyler Murray?
I don't think so.
That's just no, it's absolutely ridiculous.
And then, of course, the one coach that me and Tanner have made fun of probably the most, or second most, because probably, what was the fat guy's name in New York that we made fun of all the time?
Oh gosh,
With the slick back and the creepy mustache.
Yeah, the sex offender looking dude.
Yeah, we made fun of him a lot, but we made fun
not
of
Steve Spagnuolo though. It's Ben McAdoo.
McAdoo.
Ben
Yeah,
McAdoo.
yeah. We made fun of McAdoo a lot, but Dirk Cutter was a very close second.
Yeah,
and
Dirk Carter's a nightmare.
and they bring in Bruce Arians. I think this is surprising, just because Bruce Arians said he had to retire for medical reasons. He's pulling the Urban Meyer, if you ask me.
I don't understand the Buccaneers. So I really do like the Bruce Arians hire because he's had a lot of success everywhere he's went. But I don't understand why is this team still committing itself to Jameis Winston?
I don't know.
This guy is trash. You should have cut him last year.
Look, they are doing everything they can. It's almost like the Oakland Raiders and Jamarcus Russell, or the St. Louis Rams and Sam Bradford. They are not.
They don't want to be wrong.
What's that?
They're doing everything they can to not be wrong.
Exactly, and at the end of the day, it'll be nobody but Jameis Winston's fault that he wasn't successful, because they have literally tried everything.
Yeah.
And
this is absolutely the last resort.
It has to be.
He might not even be the starter next year, but the fact that they're just keeping him around, I feel like he's been a locker room cancer. I feel like the players don't want to play for him, and he just hasn't been productive.
And here's what's crazy. Look, we make fun of Dirk Cutter a lot. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and this is as bad as Jameis Winston was what did they end up? Number 2 offense in the league?
Something like that.
Or they were number 1 for most of the season.
Over 400 yards a game.
I mean, Now, a lot can be said with their defense was so bad that they were having to, but you don't just have to. You have to be put in a position to score that kind of points and put up those kind of yards.
Hmm.
And so that they put up 40 something points on a Saints defense in week 1 that turned out to be one of the better defenses in the league.
Hmm.
And so I'm just saying, we make fun of Dirk Cutter. It's not Dirk Cutter's fault that Jameis Winston wasn't any good. Dirk Cutter's the same head coach that gave Matt Ryan an MVP season. Great offensive coordinator, just terrible head coach, terrible decision maker.
Hmm.
So I don't get it. And then, of course, I've questioned my head. Did Bruce Arians leave the Cardinals because he saw that everything was kind of falling apart and wanted to go? And now in a situation that he thinks is favorable, so he comes back. What's up with that?
I don't know, man. I honestly don't know.
I don't like it. But anyways, that's
I know
me.
he had a really strong relationship with Carson Palmer before he went to Arizona. So I don't know if like that just enticed him, and then once Carson Palmer retired, he just didn't want to be there anymore.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't
I
know.
don't know. I don't understand it either. I thought he was done. I never thought he was going to coach again.
Yeah, me too. Me too. All right. Well, I guess we're gonna go ahead and end it there. Look, we tried to
I
make
got one more
this.
thing.
Oh, go ahead.
Just off the top of your head, just going into this next season, we're talking about coaches. Are there any coaches off the top of your head that right now, yeah, we're on the hot seat?
Ooh. Hold on. Let me
Just
think.
off the top of your head.
I gotta think of all the head coaches first. Mike Tomlin, I think.
Ah, you took that.
Uh, John Harbaugh needs to turn things around.
Hmm. They just
Uh,
signed him to an extension.
they did, and look, but I think they have another bad year. I mean, I don't know.
So
Uh, D-
I think the go ahead.
Dan Quinn is another one,
Okay.
and I would love to put Jason Garrett on this list, but I just know,
No, continue.
I just know
Just do
that
it.
I
Just
just
do it.
know Mike Vrabel's who we were trying to think of the name earlier. There it is.
Yeah, Mike Vrabel.
Uh, and I guess Doug Marone.
Yeah. Okay.
I can't think of
Wow,
anybody else that's on the hot
yeah,
seat.
you hit all of them. So I had four. Um, Jason Garrett was one of mine. The Cowboys did make the playoffs this year, but I don't know. I feel like he like holds them back for some reason.
I mean,
I don't
but think of this. I mean, he's over 500 uh, um, win percentage. He's won 3 NFC East championships. He's had 3 playoff berths. He won Coach of the Year before last.
know. Mhm.
I mean, I don't know, man. It's hard to say he's out.
So I'm still gonna stick with it. Jason Garrett, Mike Tomlin. I definitely think one more year of no playoffs and he's gone. 100%.
Yeah.
My third one was Doug Marrone, Jacksonville Jaguars. Same thing with Mike Tomlin. If he doesn't make the playoffs next year, he's gone. And then my last one that we didn't talk about, and as stupid as this sounds, because of the contract they signed him to, John Gruden.
No, there's no way. No way.
You have to.
Nope. No way.
You're out of all that money, dude. But if you go 2 years and you win a total of like 6 to 7 games,
No
what
way.
is the point? What is the point of continuing with that?
Hugh Jackson went 2 years with 1 win.
Yeah, but that's the Browns. They're dumb.
No way.
The GM there now is Mike Mayock. He's the man.
That's a laughing joke. That's a laughing stock too. I can. The Raiders
I
are
love
just a
Mike
joke.
Mayock. I love Mike
He's
Mayock,
never
dude.
worked in an NFL front office ever.
So you got to get a chance. Got to give him a chance.
All right, and he has the worst takes when it comes to the draft.
Really?
Oh, terrible.
Man, I think he's like 10 times smarter than Mel Kiper.
Well, Mel Kiper never ran an NFL franchise either.
Yeah.
The
Well,
talking heads that
I'm really excited for him. I think I personally loved it. I've loved his takes. He's been at NFL Network for a long time, and I think he's always just done a good job of breaking down players and tape. I'm excited. I think he deserves a 2 to 3 year trial. If they don't show any sort of good steady progress after 3 years, then you can come back and say, "Yeah, I told you so, Tanner." I'm good with that.
We'll see. All right, now we're gonna head out of here. Look, we tried to make this episode short. It's just what happens when me and Tanner get to talking football.
No, we can talk football for hours.
We can. We're going to work out. We're going to have to work out a system where we get these things shorter, because that is one of the overall comments that people said is, "Hey, we love the podcast. We just don't have an hour to dedicate to it every week." And so we're going to figure this out. But hey, thank you guys for listening this week. Be sure to tune in next week as me and Tanner break down the first round of the draft and do our first round mock draft. If you are interested in doing a little bit of writing, hopping on the podcast with us, just talking football, reach us. You can find us on Twitter and Facebook at All Pro Nation, or you can visit us online at allpronation.com. New website it's up. We're still making some tweaks to it. So if you visit it over the next couple of days, you're going to see it morph a little bit more into what we were looking for. But we wanted to hurry up and get that up there for you guys. So the new All Pro Nation website is up. If there's anything that we can do for you, feel free to reach out. And until next week, peace.
Bye.